Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rivalcade Rumble brought to you by DX Racer and Razor. I'm Storm, back with Hurix here to get into the Group D, the final group we get to see today. It's going to be LG Evil up against Cloud9 in our first match. Hurix, this should be a thriller.
Yeah, I mean, basically the way this is set up today is we're going to be going all through C9 and against their two hardest matchups probably and seeing what they have to bring to the table. Obviously, this big change, bringing Kaiser in over from Korea and importing this guy. I mean, this isn't the first time that they've done this. Obviously, Zephyr is one of the first two that they brought in, but they think that this is going to be a big change, especially coming from their coach Bishop as well. I mean, it definitely seems like they're going in a solid direction, but I mean, they really need the performances to kind of prove that. They really need the results here, and this is a great opportunity for them to do that.
This will be their first time with this roster, so I'm excited to see what's going to happen here up against LG Evil. And LG Evil, there's no losers bracket. This is the groups. They're the kings of the losers bracket. You know, being in that double elimination style a lot of the times in the monthly melee. But we get to see what they're going to do here in Group D. Looking forward to seeing what's going to be becoming of this best of three series. Our final series of the day will be C9 up against Good Round, which is of course X Gale Force team. So looking forward. Our map rotation is Lijiang Tower, Numbani, and Hollywood. So we at least get to see Numbani for the first time today, and then Hollywood potentially as well if it does go the distance here. So what are you expecting from both these teams as we get things started here on Control Point?
Well, it looks like the dive's going to be coming out from LG Evil. I mean, Jake is going to be on that Soldier with Vol actually on the Genji. A lot of times you'll see Jake on the Genji, but things swap around as they do, again, have that kind of versatility with Train, of course, typically on that Tracer role. But on the other side of things, C9 going to be opting for Kaiser to be on that Reinhardt. And actually, they find the first two kills of the map so far here.
And dealing with Super on that on that Winston, it's going to be crucial for them to try to press forward. But they lost Kaiser, so they don't really have a front line themselves. They're going to look for maybe some picks there from Surefour, see if Zephyr can find some nice barriers there onto his teammates to try to get some charge to move forward with that one. But now that Super's back up into the mix, they find a kill onto Adam here, and a real opportunity for them to actually come up with the first points, and they do just that.
Yeah, I mean, really, it just kind of came down to the fact that Jake was just left uncontested up on that high ground, just basically sitting on that sill up there, and then really, I mean, nobody was checking him at all. They don't really have a composition for where someone could do that. I mean, now God's on the Diva here, could potentially go ahead and, get up in his face, and I think that's why they make that swap. But before that, I mean, there was really no option, and we do see God's actually just jumping up there.
That's the first thing he does. He just goes straight up there. There's a nano boost. It's going to be on the Zephyr here. What can he find off? It actually gets booped back, so it doesn't get a whole lot of damage actually punched out, especially since we see, oh man, there's Vol coming through with the Dragon Blade, but it was also Rob with the Transcendence to keep him alive through that onslaught from Zephyr. And again, LG Evil clean this up.
So really, really good start here actually from LG Evil, and they're going to find that late pick onto Zephyr, and I believe he actually has some decent energy, and he does indeed. He was sitting at about 70 at that point, so obviously well within the realm of possibility to hit that 100% mark. If he just threw out one barrier, it would have been there. So definitely a good pickup that they were able to get him down before that Graviton comes down to kind of reduce some of that impact potentially, and now we do see C9 getting back up onto the point.
Still the high ground for Jake. That's going to be God's exactly what he does. Volg actually going to jump up there, try to help him out a little bit. On the low ground, though, Super trying to back them off. His barrier's down, so he's going to be forced to drop off this Graviton Surge out there from Zephyr, but the sound barrier helps him out a little bit here. They pick up one kill, but Super with the Primal Rage. Not a lot of follow-up off of that. It's a slow and steady fight, but it looks like Cloud9 should be able to scoop up the remaining kills.
And Vol taken down pretty low. I mean, he does actually get picked off, and that's the last DPS there. I mean, it's just Train that's up, but he's coming back from spawn, so really they just have to deal with, I mean, there's nobody left. So now at 87%, so sound barrier at the ready though here for Avast, and certainly LG Evil want to make the most of that, but it's up to Kaiser now to try to shut them down. He's been holding on to this Earthshatter for quite some time here, Storm, and have to wonder if maybe they're going to find some value in it. Obviously with Surefour pretty much ready to go with that Tac Visor coming up pretty soon, 96% for him. Rolf already charged up with that nano boost. That's definitely going to be coming together.
Let's see what they want to do with it here, as it is just going to be Super actually pressuring him back. Kaiser looking for an opportunity to bring down the hammer here and maybe add for some extra pressure there, but no, it's Vol. He took a little bit too much damage there. They used the nano boost onto Surefour. He's got the Tac Visor out, but the Transcendence again from Rob. They use the sound barrier as well from Avast to ensure that they capture this point mid-fight here. They do scoop up the kills. 9 seconds to go here. There's a Dragon Blade, and that surely should be LG Evil grabbing this point if they can deal with Gods.
Yeah, Sure4 can't make his way to the point. He tried to sneak his way past, and Avast just booped him back. We do see some of the members of C9 actually making it through there. I think that was Adam that actually did wind up getting there, and now Sure4 coming through as well to try to just push that overtime once more, but it will more than likely be LG Evil closing this one up as long as they can kill off Zephyr and Rolf here.
Yeah, they are going to be under a lot of pressure. Doesn't look like Zephyr's able to make it back in time, and an astonishing victory in that first round coming out from LG Evil. And maybe even LG Evil didn't know what to expect going into that one. You know, on that first round, still a lot of Overwatch to be played. What would you like to see maybe come out differently from Cloud9 there? Because they had a few changes later on in that round.
Well, this is one of those situations where, I mean, C9, the ultimates just didn't really line up well for them. I mean, the way that they utilized that nanovisor, I think, was it definitely was not the best timing, and then obviously they didn't have a lot of control over that because they really needed to win that fight, sitting at 87% for the opponent. I mean, LG Evil was just in a pretty spot, but as soon as you pull that out, you're going to have to deal with the Transcendence. You really want to pull out that nanovisor to kind of counter out the Dragon Blade, shut him down, force him to deflect, take out time, and then maybe find that kill if you can. But the Transcendence came out instead, and obviously that's going to be really rough trying to find kills in there if you can't get a nice biotic grenade to secure something. And they did not in that state right there.
They are going to be moving over to the Farm Mercy setup here from Sure4 and Adam. They're going to be keeping Zephyr on the Diva to maybe alleviate some pressure from Jake at that. And God's now on the Tracer, so a bit of a change up from Cloud9 here. Let's see what they can make of it. The positional advantage is to LG Evil. They're already on the point right now, and Kaiser trying to battle his way back into this. And honestly, this positioning from LG Evil doesn't really allow for Sure4 to find a whole lot of poke. He's actually going to be forced to go around the backside for it.
And now Jake just trying to contest. Ooh, Sure4 going to knock him off the side, though, as Jake is eliminated, and Rob's taken down pretty low. Over on this side, Sure4 finds that kill as well, and it looks as though C9 this time are going to be able to clean things up a little bit.
Exactly what they needed to do that time around. Sure4, like you said, came around that backside because originally he was just firing down the middle, and Super had his barrier up, and they were able to just toss ball up there as well with the defense maker. So he came around, found that easy kill on the Jake, and then followed through with another as well into Rob. So they will be able to secure the first points this time around, and starting to come up on these ultimates as well. Adam 15% off from that Resurrect, which could be big to revive them in this next fight.
Zephyr needs to make sure that Sure4 stays healthy here, and the actual barrage kill onto Super as he jumps up in the sky. Vol should be eliminated as well, and that will be another fight in C9's favor here as it does reach 30%. They do have 3 ultimates stacked up and ready to go at this point as well, and certainly C9 looking a lot different on this map than what we saw in the last one there on Command Center.
I like that move from Rolf to actually use the sound barrier, because I feel like Sure4 might have been taken out mid-barrage because they just threw Vol straight up in his face. There's a little bit of pressure as well coming from the low ground, so I like that move from him. Now they have a Resurrect to work with. Avast barely saves his own life there with the sound barrier. Affects most of his team. Rob was around the other side though, so didn't quite connect onto him, but you got to remember, Resurrect ready to go from Adam. He's going to bring back 2. Sure4 unfortunately not in the mix.
Man, that definitely is weird that he actually didn't get res, but it was just that little bit of impact that he gave himself to try to get away from that initially that got him just out of range from Adam when that kill actually came out. And now LG Evil filing onto the point. They should be able to flip this, but not before Cloud9 manages to get about 80% here. And that's a pulse bomb coming out as well from Train before they actually secure this. Sure4 is back on the point. He'll more than likely be killed off, but not before he finds a pick onto Avast as well. And they're just trying to stick on this as long as possible. Storm, they actually managed to get about 80. They're going to get more than 90%.
Overtime is the goal right now for these guys. You lose a little bit of old charge, but you know that one team fight secures the map for you. And they've got 4 people here. They might be able to actually push this into an actual team fight, but with losing Kaiser and Adam now, the rest of the guys are just going to be forced to push back off of this. They hit 99, exactly what they're looking for. Get a regroup now, and a kill on the Jake. Nope, they're just going to pull back and get a regroup. Adam 50% to that ultimate as well. I mean, they very well could take this round with a single team fight here.
And now Adam at about 60%. Certainly he wants to be at 100 so that rolling in there, they can basically just pull as many ults as possible. Initially, force them to come out, the best ones if possible, and then just force that momentum shift. Obviously, Rolf ready to go with a sound barrier coming up pretty soon, and that's one out of the way with that self-destruct coming out early.
And he's going to throw it out there from the opposite end, though. Didn't quite get anything other than Ball's mech at the point in time, but now it's Rob with the Transcendence. Sound Barrier from the other end, but the Barrage, Surefour looking for something up here. Doesn't quite find a whole lot. And you got to remember, LG Evil still taking this point. They have to pretty much win every single team fight from here on out here, and it's looking very wary for them. They have 4 on the point. They're going to go ahead and pop the Primal Rage from Super to make sure they can hold on to this.
And Kaiser just bouncing everybody around at the moment. The res does come out, if not anything, but for the invuln frames a little bit just to get Rolf back into the picture, and he doesn't have that sound barrier ready to go because he did just use it. But LG Evil battling back onto this one. Rolf does actually get 2 boot kills there onto Super and a Fast, and it's overtime ticking now as Train needs to get onto the point. Looks like he will be able to make it, but really wants that kill on Zephyr if he possibly can manage it. Gets him down pretty low, but it looks like the Lucia's going to be able to keep him up there.
I don't know if they're going to be able to get this one. That was a nice Primal Rage coming out there from Kaiser to actually knock Jake off the map when he had the Tac Visor out there. He was able to, eat up a lot of that damage here, but here the kill's starting to roll in now. That should secure the round for them. They still hold on to this one. Super, the lone survivor on the point. Jake coming around the corner here with a Vast, not able to make it back in time. And Cloud9, just like that, tied up here on the Jing Tower.
And it's 1-1 now, moving into Night Market as that third map. And obviously, both teams had a little bit of their time in the limelight so far, and now as we go into the third map, you have to wonder, are things just going to be back and forth like this, or is Cloud9 back, or LG Evil, are they going to surge back ahead? I mean, we'll have to see. Obviously, Cloud9 hasn't had too much time to work with this roster in its entirety. But, I mean, at the moment, sitting 1-1 up against LG Evil.
Well, the thing about this is Cloud9 looking for revenge. The last Rumble, the only 2 teams they actually lost to were Rogue. They went 3-0 in the groups. They lost to Rogue, and then they lost to LG Evil.
Right.
So they are looking for revenge right here from the last one about a month ago. A little bit of a different roster, but definitely on pace to be able to make this quite the series, as it's tied up 1-1 here, and we'll see what they're able to make of this one. A little bit of a change. God's now over to the Roadhog this time around to get things started, as opposed to the Tracer we saw from him last time. Now Surefour changing up. So C9, I like to see the flexibility, but Super not really landing much of a jump there, and they lose Rob early on, so they might be forced to just back off of this series.
Yeah, and C9, I really, really like the positioning here from C9, especially from their new main tank here, Kaiser, just kind of sitting right up in that doorway, just swinging that hammer so that they can't get through that doorway without taking at least 75 damage from that hammer swing. So definitely have to be careful when they do make that entry, that they're not just kind of walking into a latent hammer swing from Kaiser there. Now they are going to be sitting up a little bit more aggressively this time, but that's going to open up an opportunity actually for Train to get right onto that point, pull some of these guys back. Primarily it's going to be Zephyr there on the Diva, but still 22% already for C9 as they're just sitting on the point and looking very solid as they do.
And they got rid of Surefour, who is a big nuisance to that backline, of course, so Rob really doesn't have to worry about that anymore with them picking up that kill. Kaiser killed off mid-charge as well, and that surely should be a point going in favor of LG Evil. They just need to take care of the Diva. Zephyr going to be dropped here as well, and all being done pretty much without utilizing ultimates. They hold on to Pulse Bomb from Train, and look at Rob, Jake, Super Vault. Every single person is coming up on these big ultimates as opposed to C9, who are still a little bit behind him by 20-30% here.
We'll have to see how that weighs into things, because I mean, obviously it really only does take one ultimate to sway the tides of the battle, and the Pulse Bomb comes out, somehow isn't eaten up at all by the Diva Matrix from Zephyr. It looked like it was up, but I guess it just wasn't. It didn't eat it, so we did wind up getting that opening pick, and LG Evil are just going to be rolling around and finding these picks as they please.
And they only used 2 ultimates in that, the Pulse Bomb and that Dragon Blade. Valde really didn't get a whole lot, but even so, the fact that they won the team fight despite only using 2, that is definitely big for him. Now God's coming out here with the whole log. It's going to be straight into a Transcendence, though, so he's not going to really find too much off of that. He's looking every which way for stragglers that got left behind, but not going to be the case here. Now the sound barrier is out from Adam as they try to clean this one up.
I think, honestly, Rob 420 has looked incredibly solid with these Tranquility so far, but looks as though we're going to have to see if he can deal with this Tracer. He was nano boosted, but they do find the kill. Kaiser actually coming through and find the kill onto Train instead, though.
Oh, that's unfortunate, because Kaiser just missed his Earth Shatter. There was no one even in it, so he missed it, and then he charges out of the fight, and what do you know? Train just gets caught in it. Like, he was like, he turns around, and oh, there's a Reinhardt. I'm hit. I'm done. So it's still LG Evil taking up here, 70% and counting now. And despite losing a couple of guys late on in that fight, C9 are just forced to get a full regroup and look for one final push.
But there is a sleep that had gone out there by Rolf, but they just weren't able to capitalize on it. And it was onto Super there, the Winston, and obviously with a charge to set things up, it would have been nice, but it certainly would have exposed Kaiser to a lot of that extra pressure, especially coming from that Discord from Rob, and he's just going to pop the Transcendence once again.
Trying to make sure that Ball keeps himself alive here, and he's actually going to be okay for the time being. Zephyr, though, picks up 2 big kills with the self-destruct. I didn't actually see that one coming because it was kind of an odd placement over the wall. It's like on top of it, but he grabs it for himself. Despite that, the flip comes in overtime. 99% coming out here for LG Evil. Going to cut their losses from this fight here and look to win one more to secure the round.
And they push them back, and now they're just sitting in that courtyard here. Zephyr going to try to go ahead and get up top so he can block off a lot of that damage with that defense matrix as they come through that doorway, which is more than likely going to be the approach, but they might, ooh, they're actually going to come around that side there. We see several different flanks actually coming out. We see the Tracer from Train just going around that backside once again. He looks like he was trying to get back up onto the point to contest it and pull them back onto that point, but Kaiser back in that little doorway there, just ready to swing away. Super comes through, and Kaiser actually forced to back off. Look at his barrier health down so low.
And that's because Surefour was taken down a second time. He's been picked off before the fight even starts up, so it's unfortunate, but the Nanohawk came out, so they were actually just forced to back off. That did give a little time for Surefour to get back into this one, but Gods takes a pulse bomb, heals it back up for himself. Regardless, the Earthshatter comes down. It doesn't find anything. Kaiser dropped here, and LG Evil on the verge of taking this back.
We'll have to see, though. I mean, Train did just drop off, and we saw Avast basically in desperation trying to hold on to things with that sound barrier that just came out, but Avast is taken down pretty low. God's still on the point with the Roadhog. They find the right click, and that's the kill along with it. Jake coming through with the Tac Visor, looking for an opening as he comes through the doorway. Might be able to kill off Rolf in the back. Gets it down pretty low, but Kaiser saves the day!
Oh, Rob should have been there with him. He was back trailing with Train. He easily could have scooted right on over to help and make sure that Tactical Visor 76 was able to keep himself alive, but not going to be the case. Overtime going to tick down, and Cloud9 finding themselves here on Lijiang Tower with a 2-1 lead. Looking to secure the map here and go up 1-0 in the series.
They have to take that next map, and you have to wonder what it's going to be, because while they were able to save the day on that one, going into this map, this is certainly the one where they looked the most solid on, with Adam on that Mercy, of course, Surefour going over to that Pharah as well. I mean, this is where they looked their best, absolutely. So this definitely bodes well for Cloud9 here on Garden, and I honestly think that really at this point, LG Evil has to kind of, I don't know, try to figure out how they can deal with Short4 in the sky and maybe try to take picks on Adam. Right now it looks like they're going to put Vol on D.Va. They still have that Discord, they still have Jake with the Soldier, so they definitely have all the necessary components to deal with the Pharah in the sky. It's just all about trying to actually get the kill on Short4.
Did kind of have a rough time dealing with it last time, like you had said, but they're going back to the exact same composition they did before, putting Gods back on that Tracer, providing a little additional threat to him as Kaiser is looking for an opportunity to pounce in there. Gods now around the corner, and look at Train. He's actually coming around the backside as well, maybe looking to try to deal with Adam here. But even so, both teams playing a little reserve to get this one underway here.
And Vol actually kind of getting up in the face of Surefour a couple of times there, but not often. I mean, really what they want to do here is deny sightlines for Surefour. So essentially what you're creating is basically a 5v4 or sometimes even a 6v4 if Vol doesn't have to slide over. And that obviously is going to put things well in their favor because Surefour isn't able to land that damage. It's just, you know, all that extra time is just advantages for your team. Jake now going to be eliminated, though, as Gods comes through. Surefour able to get aggressive with the sound barrier that came out so early from Rolf.
And I would have liked to see Train get into that backline way earlier there. He had the opportunity. Maybe he was a little afraid of what Surefour would have been able to do once Adam called out for help, but he did at the end actually provide some pressure onto that Mercy pick, but it was Rolf coming through with the sound barrier to not necessarily keep just him alive, but it definitely did help him in the long term there. So they do secure the first points and have a Resurrect at the ready for this next fight, which is going to be big as always.
And we'll have to see what Adam can make of it. The barrage is ready to go. Certainly up to Zephyr to make sure that he stays safe throughout that. He pulls it out pretty early in the fight. Vol actually eats a lot of that up, and he jumps right onto him. And that's going to be a kill.
A little too early on the Resurrect from Adam. Maybe he was thinking that Surefour could have kept himself alive, but unfortunately drops just a split second after he was taken down. And LG Evil still holding on strong with all of their teammates up in the mix at this point in time. And it's going to be Cloud9 just trying to get back here and you know, rack up as many points as they can before they hand this over.
Without Rob actually charged up with that Transcendence, you have to wonder maybe do they have everything they need to survive the onslaught of the pressure that comes from C9, both from Surefour and Gods, and now even to some extent Kaiser as well on that Winston. But at this stage, I mean, they have the Primal Rage to sustain. It's really going to come down to what Jake can do here. I mean, Jake right now getting pressured by Gods. He pulls the recall out, so now Gods is going to be forced to play a little bit more defensively. Does actually throw out the Pulse Bomb. Doesn't find anything with it, though, but does find a lot of damage onto Surefour. Adam getting closer to that Resurrect, though.
They're going to go ahead and initiate here with the self-destruct, see if they can find any stragglers. Not going to be the case, but no, Vol on the other side looking for something. He finds Wolf. Not able to get out of that one in time, and they thought they maybe could get the flip mid-fight. I mean, look how close they were to actually doing that. Surefour, unfortunately, doesn't get that one, and Adam uses the Resurrect. I didn't like that at all here. Maybe they're changing off of this. Maybe that was the thought process here. But if he's sticking with the Mercy, I mean, that could have definitely been safe for this next fight.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not going to be switching off of this at this point. I can't imagine a scenario in which he would. I mean, he might, but okay, that's not going to be the case. He's pulling back out with the Pharah there. Surefour going to be going with that. It's definitely the pick that I think makes the most sense. But yeah, definitely a little bit of a mistimed ult there for sure that C9 has to be a little bit disappointed with because, you know, only found the one res and, you know, obviously not as much value. But there, Jake finds the kill with the Discord Orb onto Surefour, and that's going to back them up even more and force them into a little bit of a desperate fight attempt as soon as Surefour does actually come back up off of that respawn, as it is going to be nearing that 90% mark as they're able to get onto that point.
I mean, this shouldn't be losable by LG Evil. I mean, they've got the Sound Barrier and Transcendence both from Rob and Avast, so I can't see something too terrible happen, but as I say that, they are going to go ahead and pop the Transcendence, and Jake coming out with the Attack Visor. Can't even find anything. He doesn't really get a whole lot off it, unfortunately. They do take care of Wolf after he uses a Sound Barrier, and it looks like LG Evil trying to tie this one up here. We're in overtime right now. Barrage comes out. Surefour a little too far away, unfortunately, from Rob to make a difference, and we're heading to a fifth and final round here on Lijiang Tower.
Really, really good use of the ultimates there from LG Evil. I mean, Cloud9 definitely did a good job of backing away, you know, using those lines of sight to just kind of shut down a lot of the potential damage that could have come from those ultimates, but they just had too many options. LG Evil was able to get aggressive. I mean, Rivalcade had that Transcendence again there, and again, just too many options there for LG Evil, for Cloud9 to be able to withstand that pressure, and Adam, you know, not having that Resurrect that time. Obviously, you know, maybe things would have been different if he hadn't a single res onto Surefour the fight before, but you know, that's all at this point. That's in the past. You can't look at that at this point if you're a C9. You got to look forward. You got to start trying to deal with Rob 420 in the back line, because he's dishing out so much damage, not only with the discords that he's providing, but also just himself. And then, of course, with the healing he's doing, he's getting these Transcendences a lot here. And someone needs to pressure him at this point.
All right, this is do or die for both teams here on Lijiang Tower. Who's going to be going up 1-0 in the series to get things started, as we do see Gods head back over to that Roadhog here, and Ball now back on the Genji. So both teams kind of going back to what they ran previously on this round, as it was actually a pretty close one if I recall correctly here, but Super the first to drop now, and that's not good. No front line is available for these guys, and that should be Cloud9 picking up these last few kills, and again, starting out the round with the first points, which, you know, it has proved to be really strong for them, as we've seen throughout Lijiang so far.
They definitely have a really strong start on this map. I mean, just getting onto the point, being very aggressive, just holding that doorway, forcing teams to try to come through a Reinhardt like that that's just swinging, putting the barrier up, providing some extra support as well, so guys like Surefour in the back aren't getting pushed on at all. He could just take free shots on whoever he wants. If he ever gets pressured at any point through one of the doorways that he's sitting in, he just comes around to another doorway and he's just free-firing once again.
They are going to be hiding back along the wall, Super waiting for the rest of his teammates to come through here. They do initiate on the on the side of Cloud9 with their own Sound Barrier here, and it's going to actually help him out quite a bit, keeping Surefour alive throughout most of that with Attack Visor. He comes down with a kill for himself, and here they've got the numbers advantage, and Kaiser just swinging that hammer away. There is no stopping C9 right now.
Rob 420 is going to be just shut down and clotheslined there on the point, and sitting at about 50% is going to be Cloud9, who are looking dominant on this particular map here on Lijiang Tower. And now Surefour, who did actually just get nano boosted, was able to eliminate Jake, even inside the Transcendence, actually, by just getting that nice little bit of burst damage with the nano boost, hitting that Helix rocket to the body as well to be able to find that kill.
Still, we are going to see a bit of a contest coming out here from Train to pull them all the way back. Now Vol trying to get something done. He's got the Dragon Blade out here. What can he get? No, he's put to sleep there. That's a nice one coming out there from the side of C9 as Wolf was taken down regardless. There's the... flat. That's a big play from Kaiser coming out there as well from Zephyr, and they are going to get that team wipe for themselves. 15 seconds to get back to the point here, and should be enough time, at least, for one final team fight.
Kaiser and Zephyr coming together, just lay them down and find that really, really beautiful bomb there, and they do indeed connect quite well. Now Train jumping back onto the point just to try to get that contest going and filing onto it. Sound barrier coming out from Adam here, just trying to hold on as Sure4 actually pulls out the tack visor, and he's nano boosted too, just trying to survive against the Winston. He's trying to push him off. He's somehow still on the map, Storm.
Oh my goodness, that was too close for comfort, but Jake turns around there with a nice helix onto Rolf as well, and he's running for his dear life. Now he's going to go ahead and pop his tack visor. Doesn't have the greatest line of sight, but Kaiser is swinging away. That's not going to be the best target. He turns the other corner, and it's Zephyr in his face with the defense matrix. They have two people near the point. It's not looking too good as Gods hooks in Train, and C9 finding themselves with the 3-2 victory here on Lijiang Tower before we head to Numbani.
And honestly, C9 looking pretty solid there. I mean, they did lose to LG Evil last time around. We saw them in the Rumble for April. So obviously, like you said before, definitely looking for revenge here. Lijiang Tower was a strong map for them. So, I mean, obviously, they're just kind of coming back into this one. But we'll have to see how Numbani works out, because Numbani is actually a pretty solid map for LG Evil, actually, so could be interesting.
This will be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm wondering. Obviously, Kaiser performing terrifically throughout that entire map there, and I think it really does amplify what we've seen from C9 before, in the past, especially the past Rivalcade, because that's the best, the freshest, I guess, in our mind for right now. And what they were able to do, and the cyber power, of course, when they performed decently well. They got third place, beating out Rise Nation. But with Kaiser now a part of this team, what sort of an impact does he really make in bringing up the level of play?
Well, this isn't the first really, really high caliber tank that this roster has had. I mean, they've had Rib on this roster as well. They've had some really solid tanks in the past. This, like I said, this just isn't the first time. So it's interesting to see how this kind of change is really, really good for them, because really, they're just changing the player and the way that they play. And obviously, I think a lot more is due to the fact, that they're, getting really solid coaching in there as well. And the fact that they're really kind of coming together as a team and, really getting everything, making it cohesive and making everything really kind of the execution, make that work out properly, because individually they've always had talent. That's always been a thing about C9. They've always had the talent. They just haven't been able to do as much with it as what you see some of the other teams able to do with what they've got. So definitely good to see C9 able to compete here with LG Evil, a team that they did lose to last month. But you can't just win one map. You have to win the series. You have to win the next series and the next series after that.
I can agree with that. And LG Evil is a team that is quite often hit or miss. I mean, sometimes they show up. It could be in the same day. I mean, you look at the OMM. I mean, they lose to Tempo, they lose to Liquid, and then they show up and they're the only team that beat Yikes. I mean, they 2-0 them in the group stage. So it's every individual map or series, I guess you could say. Even the map, LG Evil is really hit or miss, and that was an extremely close one. I feel like that was a hit for them. Just C9 edging them out in the 5th round here. Now that we head to Numbani, I think it is a pretty solid map for LG Evil, and I would not be surprised to see them move it to a Game 3 on Torbjorn. Will we see maybe a little, or not on Torbjorn, on Hollywood? I was thinking Torbjorn because I'm like, are we going to see a little bit of Torbjorn from the side of LG Evil on defense, something that they kind of like to throw out with the Vast every once in a while, because we know how good Rob is. He can solo heal on that map. So that's something maybe that they bring into play here potentially. Yeah, I mean,
Torbjorn would not be, that big of a surprise for me. I mean, Vast does obviously like to bring that out, and then they run the solo heal with Rob 420, who's very proficient in that role. We saw him there against Cloud9 on Lijiang Tower, a map that Cloud9 is pretty strong on historically, at least with this kind of version of the roster. But he was still out there just doing so much with those transcendences. We talked about him a couple of times, and I think the impact that he has can be shown, however LG Evil is doing, whether it be hit or miss. Rob 420 is one of those guys that is typically really up there in terms of his performance level. So, really it's just going to be about the rest of LG Evil rallying around. Obviously, you typically see really good performances from guys like Jake and to some effect even Super and everything. It's just about the team coming together, because obviously they're another roster that has the talent, but just they've fallen short a couple of times on their results.
And I feel like that's kind of a trend in North America right now. You've got all these teams who they get to the top, and then they drop down a few times, not tiers, but a few dots, or I guess you could say, and then they're starting to finish second, third, fourth in the tournaments as Rogue makes their way up here, and then I guess we don't even know who's going to win this. This is wide open for the taking, given what we've seen in the last couple of groups. We do have results from a couple of groups. Group A, we have Kungarna at the #1 spot, Yikes grabbing a #2, and then Group B, Selfless, of course, #1 in that group, and Rise Nation actually edging out Tempo Storm. So we've got 4 out of our 8 contenders for tomorrow's quarterfinal single elimination bracket. So looking forward to seeing who's going to be coming out in Group C and Group D. But we are just about ready to get into this one. Hurix, who are you taking for the second map?
Ooh, it's tough to say. Obviously, I mean, LG Evil should do well on this map. By definition, they should do well on this map. And again, historically, you probably say that Avast will more than likely be on a Torbjorn, but it's certainly just as possible that he's on a Lucio, and it looks at the moment like he's going to be on a Lucio, but obviously things could switch up as, Jake is on a Mercy, and Super is on Sombra instead of, a typical Winston or Reinhardt role. So not sure exactly what to expect, but again, there are a couple of things that are certainly in their wheelhouse and wouldn't be surprises if they actually pulled them out, especially on the defensive side. Otherwise, I'm expecting, some dives, maybe 2-2-2 with Vol heading over to a D.Va, perhaps, for their attacking side. But defense is definitely up in the air for them, as there are several options for them to go down. As for the attack for C9, I mean, who knows? They definitely have the talent for a dive. They definitely have the talent for, just going straight up with like a triple tank or something like that. I think I would err more on the side of going for something like a 2-2-2 or something like that for the attacking side of C9 if I'm just out here guessing. But that's just my thoughts on it, and I'm not exactly sure what you would be seeing from Surefour. Probably a Soldier 76 there. To pair up with Gods, more than likely on the Tracer for the attacking side. But again, there are several different options, as Gods and Surefour for the DPS duo are very, very dynamic in what they can bring to the table. And then on top of that, you got guys like Zephyr as well, who have the flexibility as well.
Well, it will be Avast on the Lucio. I was maybe hoping a little bit of Torbjorn, but yeah, they are going to be breaking out that Far Mercy. As Surefour and Adam want to return to that one and see what they can do. Thankfully for LG Evil, they've got Rob to alleviate a little bit of that pressure and break out that Discord orb and see if they can try to take care of business. A lot of that going to rely on what Jake and Vol can get done in the skies as well up against them here, but we'll see what Cloud9, if they're going to get out to a hot start here on Numbani.
Yeah, this is essentially that same exact composition that we saw CLG pulling out when they initially had their great impact in the Overwatch pit, where you're able to kind of shut down soldiers a little bit and just kind of provide some pressure from above. And it's hard for those Tracers to come alive too, because there's so much ground pressure, but there's also that threat in the air too. Surefour backing these guys up.
Man. I mean, look at the point. It's almost captured right now, and that started out with a kill there onto Super to get the fight started, and now it doesn't look like there's much of a point presence. Now that Super is finally back, they can afford to get on this, but they've already lost a few crucial members, and the fact that Surefour's down might allow LG Evil to battle back into this one, but Adam coming through with that Resurrect onto Surefour, gets him apart back into this mix now. Sound Barrier already from Wolf, and C9 starting out on the right foot. They should be able to roll through this one if they can take care of business on the Vol and Train.
All they have to do is take out, yeah, exactly, Vol and Train, but one of them is the Tracer. They finally do find that kill, and again, it's still contested. They are stealing away so much time here, but C9 finally do take this one, and they actually pull away from that fight with 3, actually 4 ultimates. Zephyr should have his ready to go pretty soon, but Rob420 is going to get pressured by Surefour. Gods finds that kill, though. And now, with a lot of room to push, C9 should be able to get pretty close to coming around that corner, around the area of the front of that bus there in the street, to be able to continue this. But at 4:40 on the time bank, Storm, and I have to wonder, is Adam going to be able to get that Resurrect available around the time that Rob420 might be able to turn the tides of a fight with the Transcendence there?
It's definitely possible at this point. It depends how long this fight is. Especially, they don't have a sound barrier to keep him alive, so it could be rather quick, especially if Jake's able to find himself with a few kills. But Transcendence, get it started here from Rob, and they actually do find a kill. And I think, Jake's actually going to be dropped here, so this isn't looking good, especially with the fact that that Resurrect is already starting to come up here for Adam. He's at 90% and counting, and probably not going to drop it at where they're at right now. But Surefour coming up with the barrage. Vol wasn't quite able to get there in time, Yurix.
Oh, and Vash just got body shot too, and he's going to be taken out. Surefour finds his 3rd kill, and that one's onto the Lucio. That's a huge pickup. They just need to take Vol out of that mech once more. Super down very low as well with the barrier supporting on the payload, and they should be able to push this one forward. Again, LG Evil just trying to steal away as much time as possible, but C9 with a very solid pace here on Numbani.
I believe that should be very close to the 2nd checkpoint. They should be able to contest that one. The payload really wasn't around that next elbow, so there's plenty of time for them to get back in time. But remember, they've got to worry about the resurrect from Adam, and not too much of an offensive threat because Surefour used that barrage in that last fight, so they don't really have to worry about that one. But they are going to try to contest this. Super jumping back onto here as they're looking to actually try to deal with Gods up top along with Zephyr potentially. As we actually see Kaiser straight into the back line trying to deal with those support players.
And Surefour just coming around the side there. Vast jumping onto the point alongside Super and Vol. So obviously a lot of their aggression is just being forced right into the backline of C9, and Adam with a big res coming out onto Rolf and Surefour, hoping to turn this fight back around. Train still, though, is so elusive and not getting hit by these rockets at all, but Surefour holding onto this barrage does find that kill as he turns around, and Vol going to be jumping in his face just in time. That barrage actually cancels out.
I mean, was it in time, though? I mean, they lost its
No, the barrage canceled out just in time for him to kill
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm talking about Vol being there. I mean, twice now we saw Vol with both barrages from Surefour just a split second too late, which can be life or death, and clearly death for LG Evil if he's not there right in time. Because Surefour continuously finds himself in these terrific positions for the barrages to come through to make sure that Vol's not a part of him. And even with the resurrect, I mean, Adam's back up to 65% here, and Adam was not hiding. He was just sitting up top with his beam down to the payload, and nobody from the side of LG Evil really thought to deal with him.
And Gods throws out the pulse bomb. Does indeed find a pick onto Avast. That's a definite big pickup as Rolf pulls out the sound barrier. They're not going to have a Lucio to help Rob out, and Rob's actually going to fall.
And still, Surefour getting closer and closer to another barrage here. Should have it for what could be a potential final engagement here. As soon as they can take care of these tanks, Vol going to be taken down. I think it's pretty important that Vol was taken down so late because that's a threat they don't have to worry about now that Surefour has his barrage ready to go when they come out of this base.
And Surefour is just kind of hovering up and does have that barrage ready. It should be noted, but Jake finds that pick. What was that positioning? Adam forced to res him back up, and Surefour still finds a kill.
Oh man, maybe that was the plan all along here. Who knows at this point? Still, Adam used that resurrect, was forced to use it at this point. They might be able to just push him off the payload, but no, Vol comes through with a couple of kills with self-destruct, and LG Evil might be able to hold on. They need to get these kills immediately if Cloud9 want to capture it, and it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, Kaiser's it definitely didn't look like he wanted to pull that ult out. I mean, did not have the advantage in terms of spawn, so if he did actually pull out the Primal Rage, best case scenario, he pushes them off the point long enough for him to secure that objective by himself, but that's really asking a lot out of one single Primal Rage, so I think it's definitely intelligent for him to just, not pull that out as he did, and now he's actually going to be switching over to the Reinhardt with that Primal Rage active, actually.
All right, that'll be interesting to see how this pans out. As Vol, of course, Vol made that change as well over from the D.Va. So they no longer have to deal with the Pharah because Surefour on the 76. So a bit of a comp change coming out at the end. But there's the Pulse Bomb. Is able to find a lot of damage onto Train. Maybe an opportunity for them to move forward. But no, Super comes from downtown, actually hits Adam. Somehow he got caught in the midst of that charge, Sharks. And that's going to be C9 forced to just back away from this engagement.
Back up they will, as Kaiser's getting pretty close to this Earthshatter. I mean, he literally just swapped to this, and he's already at 90% here. So he will more than likely have it before Super, but you never know with these Fire Strikes as they just generate that ult so quickly. Kaiser's ready to go with his, and that Earthshatter at the ready, and he actually does get a nice one!
He hits Train on the edge there. They did use the Nano Boost as well, but it doesn't really get a whole lot there from Surefour. Immediately he had the attack visor out, but they are going to be able to fall through with a few more, but you got to remember how close that spawn is for the defense. So the trades have to favor Cloud9 if they want to move forward through with this. Zephyr, does avoid that hook there coming out from Train. And again, 60 seconds to go here. It's not a whole lot of time for C9.
And God's making the swap, now going over to the Genji, more than likely to try to contest Rob 420 in the back if he can. Earthshatter at the ready for Super, though. If he gets around Kaiser, or Kaiser lets him by, obviously that Earthshatter is going to do a significant amount of damage in the back. along with the control that it provides, they will be able to wipe the floor with them if this is as valuable as we saw Kaiser's earlier. But that's going to be the Graviton coming out, and Vol's pretty low here, but Earthshatter comes down and only hits Gods.
And Nano Boost was on the Vol. It keeps him alive for the time being with the damage reduction. He's going to be able to top his own out there, but there's no one there to follow up. Train trying to do something, but no, he does actually pick up 2 kills. The late Whole Hog will be able to secure the kills, and honestly, that was off the back of Vol getting the Graviton Surge a split second before he drops there. The Nano Boost to keep him alive originally from Rob is going to be able to help them hold them off for the time being. 6 seconds to go. Can they make it back in time? God's going to try to contest.
Fast ready to go with the Sound Barrier, though. Jake should be able to get the Tac Visor up into this fight. I really don't think that C9 is going to be able to push this unless we just see one of the craziest Nano Boost shatters of all time from Kaiser. It's just not going to happen at all. LG Evil should be able to take this one.
Oh, not the best timing coming out from Super with the charge. Vol is the only one hit by the Earth Shatter from Kaiser, who grabs one, and I think that's the end of the reign here on Numbani on offense. That will be the round over. God's trying to turn it around, but he's going to be taken down, and they come up just short of that 3rd checkpoint here. 70 meters set here, and LG Evil completing the map, going to be able to move us to Hollywood if they're able to do that.
Certainly in a good position to get the job done at this point. I mean, we've seen their attack on this map before. Usually is pretty solid. I mean, typically you'll see Jake and Train come together with a lot of aggression, and they'll be able to find a bunch of kills and really kind of set a really good pace for their attack. But I don't know. I mean, this is a totally different C9 than what they faced, just about a month ago or something like that. So, I mean, at this stage, you have to wonder, how is C9 going to try to hold defensively? It looks like it's just going to be pretty much the same exact composition that they ran initially of, just having that Winston in there, and the only thing you really change is just Surefour and Adam.
I can't see them wanting to change up too much at this point. I mean, there's no reason to. I mean, that was a very solid push. They had a lot of time after the 2nd checkpoint to come through, with the final, checkpoint. But LG Evil really turned it up a notch at the end. They made the adjustments that were necessary for them to be able to hold on. We saw Vol come up big for that team, Jake as well, and I think that's what really allowed them to hold on before that 3rd checkpoint came through. And I feel like if that 3rd checkpoint came through with the original 2 minutes they would have had, I believe it was, when it was just Kaiser on the payload along with, was it Gods on Tracer or Surefour? One of them was on Tracer at that point. Had they had 2 minutes, I would have said this map might be over right now. But LG Evil, they've got a fighting chance here. I mean, especially with the momentum they have from being able to defend that, to be able to push all 3 checkpoints here.
And I'm really curious to see, I mean, what we see in the past, what really works with defenses on this particular map. Obviously, you could say stuff like Torbjorn's and stuff like that can definitely create defenses that are certainly capable of holding that first point. But I think the thing that really, really does well on Numbani is tanks that really know how to position themselves, how and when to be aggressive, and when to kind of, jump onto that low ground, press someone lower, get some healing, or, make some space for some of your DPS back on that back coast area. And I think, honestly, with Zephyr and Kaiser on this roster here, the question is are they the guys that C9 is looking for to be able to create that space for guys like Surefour and Rolf? Because if they can do that, then we're going to look at a very solid defense from C9. However, if maybe there's, for some reason, these guys aren't meshing together quite yet in terms of, how to be doing that with those tank rolls, then honestly, LG Evil has a great opportunity to just roll them over on that first point.
I got to agree that Kaiser and Zephyr are those guys to be able to create that space, though. I mean, we've seen what Kaiser's been able to do. We've seen what Zephyr's been able to individually, and we saw what they were able to do together on Lijiang Tower, that 5th point, that big self-destruct play that came out from them. If we could see more of that from them, I mean, it's not just them either. I mean, the rest of the team following up off of that. But, those 2 people being the newest additions, I guess they're the most – to be kind of criticized in what they're doing with this team as they move forward, because, the old C9 and what they're able to do, but moving forward with new replacements, obviously expect them to do better. So those 2 kind of in the spotlight with that, Kaiser in particular, and I think he's really shown up in a good way for them today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's hard to tell off of one series. You really want to see the impact over time and what kind of things he's able to do, what kind of tendencies he has as a player, not just in general, but also just in the roster as a whole. Because obviously, we know what to expect from Kaiser from his previous roster, but what is he supposed to do here on C9? Because his role could swap up a lot. I mean, obviously, they want to integrate someone, and they did, that really fits the bill in terms of what they're trying to do and accomplish with their team. But I mean, things can change. I mean, there's obviously several different dynamics when you're looking at a roster like C9 in comparison to where Kaiser is originating from. So at this point, it looks like we're going to be ready to start up the map as I think it was LG Evil was looking for a quick pause there for a second. But we will be able to jump back into that one and determine whether or not C9 is going to be able to take this 2-0 and move on into the final match of the night that we're going to be having streamed, or perhaps if we're going to be going into a Game 3 here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I could see it go either way right now. And a big question on my mind is, what can LG Evil, a lot of teams, we mentioned this before here, so a lot of teams like Selfless in particular, Kungarna as well, CLG, they got to the top and then they just kind of fell down just a little bit, making room for the next one. LG Evil has been in that spot for a while. What do you think they need to kind of do to return to their former glory as a team?
Well, really, I think a lot of it was just off the back of, they made some changes as a team. They brought Avast in that really did a lot for them. Losing Verbo was certainly.
Well, that was a long time ago.
That was, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that was a long
there.
time ago.
Yeah.
But when he left and went over to Immortals, I mean, obviously they had a little bit of a moment where they weren't playing so well. They got Avast. They started doing a lot better. But I think, honestly, it was just the fact that when they were bringing Avast in, they started noticing that they were having some success. They wanted to change the way that they approached the game. And I think that really helped them really look at the game at a different level, at a different light. And really, I mean, if they can kind of hone in on that, really find that once again, that drive, that passion to just continue pushing, then I think they're going to be able to kind of find themselves once again. Obviously, they're still a very strong team, but, LG Evil was certainly a huge name in NA for quite some time there, around that time of Hammers Esports, and then first going over to LG at that time as well.
Let's see what we're going to have here as Jake is on that 76 on the high ground. Super trying to provide some of that threat, and actually they do take care of business onto Adam here, which is honestly, I'm curious to see what C9 wants to do off of this one, because God's trying to apply some pressure, but they're just going to be forced to back off, give a tick up, and maybe even more because they lost their Lucio right from the get-go. This is starting to look like what we saw from C9 as well here.
And Adam, oh, sorry, that's actually Surefour backed up a bit as Jake in a very nice position, but Ball actually going to be reduced to dust for a second there, but actually does get healing. Super now taken down pretty low. It looks as though C9, with Adam coming back in, should be able to back these guys off. Surefour forced to actually drop the tactical visor just to clean up when they were already kind of ahead.
But it worked out decently well for him, and the fact that Jake is only at 50% and Surefour just uses tac visors goes to show what kind of damage Surefour was punching out there. And if he can keep that going here in this next fight, he might be able to get back on track with what Jake is at here. So utilizing that ultimate to make sure they hold on. They did give up 2 ticks, so they can't really afford to play as passively as they just did in that previous fight.
But again, look at Rob, 88% on the Transcendence and charging quickly as the Harmony Orb is bringing up the heals. But he's going to be picked off by Gods with the Pulse Bomb, and that's a huge pick for them, as that Transcendence was pretty much all LG really kind of ever needs to win fights.
Still Jake coming up on attack visor here. He's still on the low ground rather, so not a good opportunity for him to use it. He's actually into the Winston. Jake's going to be taken down. Kaiser lays down the barrier. He gets in his face and makes sure that Jake doesn't get anything accomplished. Ball also going to be taken out of the mech, and that means pretty much free pickings here for the rest of C9. And Primal Rage is out on the point, but I'm afraid that Super's not going to be able to get a whole lot done with that. And now Surefour again coming up on an ultimate for the next fight. 2 minutes off the board.
Kaiser and Zephyr holding onto their ultimates as well, and they are definitely doing a great job of just contesting that high ground and managing to hold that point as well. I mean, they fell a little bit short on that first fight when we saw Adam get picked, but coming back into it, they've really kind of held this ground quite well. We do see Kaiser taking down pretty low, but that's going to only force out the Primal Rage, and he's just going to be going up and down, definitely just trying to create some more space, take away a little bit more time.
Look at that separation coming from it as well. That was a good job to be able to throw down that self-destruct. They didn't capitalize on it, though. They had 2 people on the point. The rest of them were running away from the self-destruct that came out there from Zephyr, and they didn't really get anything, which is a little unfortunate. Surefour as well didn't get a whole lot off of that tac visor, and that will be the first checkpoint secured for LG Evil. Took them a little bit longer than expected, even compared to Cloud9 at that. But still, they've got time to work with Hurix in the next phase of this map to be able to try to complete this one.
Jake definitely likes those high ground positions, and he's going to get himself into another one here. I mean, it definitely works out for them, I think, because, again, it just kind of creates a little bit of distance between him and any of the threats that would potentially be coming at him. And ideally, Zephyr would be over there trying to, get up in his face and try to shut him down. But typically what you'll see Zephyr doing is just kind of helping out Kaiser and some of the supports as well, and just kind of peeling for them, keeping the defense matrix from them rather than just trying to shut down the damage at the source.
It looks like he's able to provide kind of both of those roles. I mean, he's got good communication with Kaiser in terms of where they need to go. Like, as soon as he thought that a threat was going to be coming from Jake, he jumps up there and gets a little bit of support from Kaiser as well. But they lose Adam again to get this fight started, which is not good, as it doesn't even look like they need the tack visor from Jake to be able to secure the fight. That's his second checkpoint in the bag.
And pushing forward, LG Evil now with a decent set of time on their hands, just over 4 minutes here to push this last section of the map. And on top of that, they also have had Jake finding kills regardless of where he is on his ultimate. I mean, he's been sitting on tack visor for that entire stage of the map. That second stage is just holding on to it. And now with just under 4 minutes, I mean, they have an opportunity to go ahead with that, and then Transcendence at the ready as well as the sound barrier. So a lot of options, of course, and Vol going to be making that swap over to the Genji. He was about 85%, I think, on the self-destruct, but going to opt for a little bit more of that dive style, coming through with that pick as well.
We'll see what they can get done with it here as Vol moves over to the Genji. There's Super jumping in the back. Sound barrier going to be able to keep him alive as well. I'm looking for that tack visor, but Jake still no opportunity to drop this one. Transcendence is coming through. Still, it's going to be Surefour with his own. Now Jake popping it a little late. Is there enough targets, though? It doesn't look like that's the case, so not a lot of value from it. But regardless, they've got the numbers here, and they could have this fight in the bag. Fight in the bag means map victory, but there's a hook from downtown from Gods. That certainly should secure this hold by themselves another little bit of time.
And Kaiser finding that charge on Jake as Jake was trying to make his exit. And if he would have been able to get out, that definitely would have been nice, as, you know, of course, he would have been able to lay out a little bit more damage, get in a little bit more poke, and get away from that low ult percentage that he's currently at.
We'll see what they can get done with it in this next fight. Or I guess Vol makes another change as well. So Vol went over to the Genji briefly and now goes over to the Zarya here. So they're not really going to have much ult charge overall in this next fight. I mean, the closest person is Vast at 35%, which is a little worrying given that, I mean, you've got 230, so you can build those up, push these next couple of fights dry, but, you know, you're basically relying on one final team fight if you get all those ults up in time to try to win.
And we do see the sound barrier coming up now for Adam. If they can get the elimination on him, swing someone around, then really they could actually do a lot with this, as Rolf doesn't have the Transcendence ready, and he's not going to be able to heal up that entire team in the same way that a Lucio possibly could. But now Kaiser taken down pretty low here. Barrier is dropped as Zephyr forced away, and LG Evo looking to make another push here as they have the rest of Cloud9 backed up.
Oh, there's a shatter, though, coming out from Kaiser. Hits Vol and Vol only, but there's Super with a charge. Doesn't quite find the kill, unfortunately. Still, Wolf using the Transcendence, keeping him alive. Jake now, Attack Visor's out there. The Nano Boost was onto Super. This could be it for him. It looks like no one's on the payload. Adam trying to do something. Gods gets a reel in, but it's just him and his Lucio against 4 members of LG Evil. The shatter comes down from Super. Kaiser not going to be able to get a whole lot off of this. Zephyr trying to contest T-Rex, but I think LG Evil have this in the bag if they can finish off this Zephyr, and it looks like that could be the case. He picks up one. Is it enough?
Oh, and Surefour comes back on with the Attack Visor. He was sitting at 1 health for a second there, and they do clobber him with the hammer there from Super. Jake now trying to find these last couple of kills. Does kill off Adam. They're still just jumping onto this point. Kaiser goes ahead and gets on, but he gets pushed off, and he's going to get...
Oh, no, he gets booped off too long. That could have been an astounding hold, as it looked like Wolf and Zephyr were back in the mix here, but not going to be the case. We are certainly heading to a third and final map in this best-of-3 series. It's going to be Hollywood to round things off here, Hirix, and that's going to be very interesting, because both these teams are 1-0, and I don't want to say that C9 is going to win their next matchup against Good Round, but, you know, if we can expect that, the winner of this would be getting the 1 seed in the group.
Yeah, and obviously that means a lot, because being in that single elimination playoff bracket tomorrow, I mean, you want to have the best seed possible, because you're not going to be able to, I mean, if you're LG Evil, you're not going to be able to be the bottom, the loser bracket kings as they typically are, as they just move through. So, I mean, really, you want to have that top seed, so you have the best possible opponent for your matchup in terms of, you know, going into the playoffs, so that you can move your way through into the semifinals and put yourself in the best possible position to take home the victory.
Well, we do have all 3 groups wrapped up other than this final Group D. Group C actually concluded. Renegades finding themselves with a 3-0 record there. They're actually going to grab first seed, CLG grabbing the second seed. So a couple of, you know, I guess the teams we expected to make it through today so far have made it through. Maybe you expected Tempo over Rise potentially, you know, maybe expected rise. It's a close one, but regardless, most of the teams make it through. Maybe a little bit different of seeds, but we're heading to Hollywood for the first time today. So I'm excited to see a little bit of fresh blood in terms of what map we're going to be heading to. What are you expecting for this one?
I mean, Hollywood, that's completely up in the air. I still think that LG Evil is really solid on Numbani, and I think that's a big reason why they wound up taking that map. But ultimately, I think Hollywood is one of those kind of maps where, all the teams are typically pretty strong in it. I think LG Evil, for that first point, are going to look pretty solid, at least initially. But as soon as things open up, I'm not sure what to expect. Going into that second stage of the map where you're talking about, getting out into the streets phase, and then even further than that, going into that final stage of the map inside the studio, inside of Westworld. I think really this is kind of up in the air. I'm not sure what to expect. I'm going to put my money on C9 at the moment, but I'm talking like 51-49 kind of split at the moment.
Well, a big question for me right now is what do they want to do with Surefour? Do they want to keep him on the 76? Do they want to move him back to Farah? Because they found a lot of success with that originally when they made their attack on Numbani. And heading also, to the third checkpoint. Then they made the change after they finally realized that Surefour was kind of being dealt with. So is that something they head back to maybe? Or do they feel like LG Evil has kind of figured that out and they go back to the roots of what they kind of ran on defense there on Numbani?
Well, you think about the way that they use it. I mean, obviously, going into Garden, they used that pretty much the entire time. I think it was 100% that they actually had that up, utilizing Surefour and Adam. Then attack over on Numbani, they used that for some time. So really, I think they feel the most comfortable with that setup when they're able to utilize Surefour, utilizing the environment. And obviously, Hollywood lends to that a little bit because, you can get up over security, you can get up on top of that building of Gatorade and everything like that. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to utilize the environment on Hollywood as well. So it's possible. I'm not sure that they're going to pull it out, but it would not be a surprise. It's the same thing, probably the same a chance that you could see a Vast pulling out a Torbjorn or something, where it's like it's not going to be a surprise, but I'm not entirely sure that's going to be pulled out.
And it looks like we do just need a few minutes as LG Evil wrapping up a few things. Need a little bit of a break here as this is quite the series. Best of 3. We are headed to a game 3. And as I mentioned, both teams sitting at 1-1 in the standings as I believe they both took out, LG Evil took out Good Round and Cloud9 taking out Virtue. And, heading into this group, I thought this was, because there's like 2 or 3 teams. We had mentioned this before. 2 or 3 teams in each group that could have probably, all 4 could have made it realistically into the top 2, but 3 teams that we were really keeping an eye on it. And this Group D, the top 2 teams, Cloud9 and LG Evil, any team that gets put with them, Good Round and Virtue, you're going to have a rough time. CLG Renegades didn't know what to expect from Renegades. Renegades still came out on top. They beat CLG. Rise, I feel like they're definitely a beatable team from Tempo or Ice Block potentially. And then Evil Geniuses, they didn't even make it as an invited team. Kungarn and Yikes getting over them. So I feel like heading into this Group D, LG Evil and Cloud9, that's a different caliber of teams that you're going up against here. And I'm looking forward to seeing all 8 of these teams tomorrow because, a reminder, it is single elimination. Last month we had double elimination, but it's single elimination this time around. Best of 5 finals is a third place match, but that's the 1 seed. If you get 1 seed, that's the difference between playing. I guess these are all pretty close teams. So honestly, Kungarn or Yikes, they feel like they're pretty evenly matched here.
Yeah, no matter where you get placed up, certainly, maybe Group B, that second place finish, that seed right there might be a little bit weaker than some of the other teams, maybe, but. Honestly, all of these teams seem pretty strong. I think CLG a little bit less so after what we saw with Renegades. But, maybe there's a little hiccup. Maybe they come around and turn everything back around tomorrow and have a much better performance. It's hard to say. That definitely didn't look like the CLG that we're used to seeing at all. So I think that kind of threw things out of whack a little bit. But nonetheless, again, Yikes and Kungarna, very, very solid. Group A is definitely not a matchup that you're looking for going up into that playoff series. So anyone who winds up going up against them is certainly going to have a little bit of a struggle. But it's certainly possible to beat either one of those. We have seen crazier upsets for sure. Time and time again, and honestly, some of those matchups aren't even upsets. So.
And looking at the teams, it's really about who shows up because we've seen these teams go back and forth with each other countless times. Yikes beats LG Evil, they lose to Kungarna today. I feel like a lot of these teams is just who is going to be coming in hot in the morning, or I guess in the afternoon tomorrow, and to see who's going to be coming out on top. But it looks like we are about ready to go and get into this one, as it looks like LG Evil is all ready after they needed a couple of pauses, but we're in our final map here. We're headed to Hollywood. You took C9 on this one, I believe. So I'm looking to see what LG Evil can do to combat your statement.
51-49, man.
51-49.
51-49.
Well, I'm not sure. If I had to make a pick, I can't make a pick right now. That's too hard. I mean, that first map was clearly, I mean, 5 rounds is about as close as it gets, but it looks like C9 had the edge. And then heading to Nimbani, it looked like C9 had the edge, but LG Evil just barely edged that one out. So heading to this, I'm expecting another thriller in our third and final map of this series. Of course, following this series, guys, we still get to see C9 once again. They're going to be taking on Good Round, who is also known as Gale Force. Their new team is Gale Force, or Good Round, rather.
Or
no, I'm not gonna go with it.
Here comes the boink.
No, I'm not going to go with that one. Boink, of course, a crucial member for that team, of course. But good to see them in action up next against Cloud9 following this series here. But it looks like on defense to get started, it will be Cloud9. And Surefour going to be sticking with that 76 and putting Gods back on the Roadhog here.
And now looking at the defensive side, I mean, certainly you want to see Surefour in a really good position here to hold out. I mean, at this point, I would imagine that we're going to be seeing this triple tank coming through. I'm not entirely sure that Jake is going to sit on this. I think he's probably going to be more than likely on a soldier pick. I mean, it wouldn't even be that much of a surprise, actually, to see him on a Genji. That certainly wouldn't be that crazy either. We've seen teams do that. We've seen this team do that as well. So, you know, pushing into this, I'm not entirely sure how they want to approach this. Jake actually sitting on the Hanzo at the moment, and he's coming out of the base with this one.
This will be interesting. I mean, Jake on the Hanzo is something we have seen before, but
this is like a King's Row type style.
We have seen this from him before. We'll see what he's actually gonna make of it. If he can find any early poke with the bow to see if he can try to get himself up a little bit higher than Vol, and maybe even try to get 2 Dragon Strikes before that Graviton Surge comes through. But they're already playing a little aggressive on the point. Super trying to get a little poke on the Kaiser, and they're actually forcing him all the way back into the cafe because of it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just the presence of this Hanzo, it's very much like playing against a Widowmaker. You don't want to give up those sight lines to be just picked very early on, because then you're just going to be setting your team up to basically just fall quickly. And Jake already with those picks there, Surefour did just get one shot, and look at him just go. I mean, he's just jumping forward, finding kill after kill after kill, and they are definitely going to be able to set a nice pace here, and LG Evil already making me regret my initial expectation.
3 kills in the bag from Jake in that last fight. Opened it up with a nice scatter, and there's a late kill onto Zephyr as well. So they'll be able to move forward with that payload a little bit out of that entrance as they await their Diva to come off of respawn here. So definitely a solid pick to get things started. Dragon Strike at the ready, but a lot of changes coming out now for C9 as they move over Gods, Kaiser, and Rolf.
Now Jake ready to go with that Dragon Strike. Vol not that close at the moment. And Vol sitting at 0 energy as well, so not going to be able to generate that last 30% quickly unless he gets, you know, some good barriers out for his team.
Actually see Zephyr all the way back here. Maybe he needs to be a little careful. The Nano Boost on to Vol because he is fully charged here. Should be able to melt them down, but still, they can't even deal with Jake, let alone having to worry about a fully charged Nano Boosted Vol on the Zarya here. And this is LG Evil just steamrolling him right now here. So, I mean, this is nothing compared to what we saw in Lijiang Tower and Numbani. And C9 yet to put up any resistance. And they're so far off of their ultimates because they made changes originally. I mean, they made 4 changes originally from the first checkpoint.
And Zephyr taken down pretty low. Again, Vol not with any energy, still just burning him down. Has the Graviton ready, but Kaiser actually does eliminate Jake, so they're not going to have that combo. They still might want to push it down, though, depending on how this fight turns out. Graviton does indeed go down. They take Adam out inside of it.
There was no Dragon Strike there because Jake was taken down early on. He shoots it from downtown. I think Jake's going to be making a change. Where did that go? Yeah, that came from spawn. I was looking all over the place for the Dragon Strike as Jake now goes over to the Genji, and that didn't quite work out for him, unfortunately, but still plenty of time to hit the second checkpoint.
He's ready to go in this Genji. We've seen this character from him time and time again. And again, that's one of the things that I said before, was that Genji wouldn't be surprised if Jake wound up being that sole DPS on a Genji on this map, especially just given that it's Hollywood, especially in the second stage here. can basically just kind of contest that high ground, get aggressive, jump in onto Rolf there on that Zenyatta as well, and put some pressure on him. So I like this pick from them.
Sound barrier to get things started here, though, from C9 as Gods comes through with the Dragon Blade, immediately taken down. So it's a pretty even playing field. Oh, Super does catch Adam on the side of that Transcendence. Rolf, if he had been 2 steps to the left, he would have been able to save his Lucio's life, but wasn't the case. Regardless, they do manage to clean this one up here, unless Train says otherwise, but I doubt that's the case, especially with that, with the Primal Rage, guys.
And now Surefour pushing forward just to try to go ahead and get on this high ground, maybe hide out a little bit to try to see if he can get some extra little poke damage, or maybe if someone jumps up onto this high ground here that he can put some pressure onto them. Someone like Jake on the Genji is more than likely what he's waiting up top for, or at least to maybe get some intel onto where they're headed. And he can actually hear that very early on, sliding around and looking for some extra damage onto the back end there. Anybody kind of straggling.
He needs 25% right now because Rob is ready to go with the Nano Boost. So if he can get that up, they're still going to look to engage without this and maybe even try to win with that or pull it out mid-fight. But with Train going down early on, that's not a good start for these guys. And that's actually going to put Gods up to a respectable level with his own Dragon Blade. But there's the Nano Blade. Jake trying to turn this around despite being on numbers disadvantage.
Oh!
But Zephyr, no one is there for LG Evil to block off that self-destruct. He picks up a triple for himself and shuts down the rest of that push. 2 minutes to go, though, for LG.
So far, a pretty solid defense, actually, from C9. And again, Surefour ready to go with that Pulse Bomb. God's getting close, actually, to having that Dragon Blade at his disposal, and certainly going to want to pull that out in this next one because, I mean, really, there's not a lot of options here for LG Evil as they're going into this next fight. And really, you want to shut them down quickly to be able to basically shut down any hopes of them getting their ultimates charged up for potentially what could be the last fight.
I mean, it's looking good, though, for C9, especially since Gods has a Dragon Blade. He opened the fight up with the pick last time with it, but if he could try to take care of Jake in particular, that'd be excellent, and that's exactly who he's going for now. Looking for him. Jake still deflecting some of it. There, he finally comes through with that kill for himself. And, I mean, look at Kaiser all the way in the back. Kaiser single-handedly just dove into the back, took care of Rob, who's on the Zenyatta, who can't get his ult charged up. 60 seconds to go here. What do you do if you're LG?
Well, I mean, if you're LG, you got to make sure that Zephyr, or sorry, that you got to make sure that Vol dies off quickly or is able to switch off quickly because you don't have a lot of time left. They're pushing him all the way back to the spawn here. And he's just going to go ahead and swap back more than likely to that D.Va, and that is going to be the case, just so he can get back into his mech. But now you have to wonder, I mean, at this stage, going around 30 seconds left, you have 1 fight left. You have Sound Bear going into this next fight if Avast doesn't get picked early, but Rolf getting close to that Transcendence. Surefour ready to go to get a pick with Pulse Bomb. Kaiser has Primal Rage to hold on to the point, and I mean, there's just a lot of options here. Zephyr might be able to get a big wipe too.
And there's nothing really in the works for LG Evil. Like he said, only it's a Sound Barrier, which only hits him, Super, and Ball. And I think that needed to hit Train and Jake and Rob earlier because clearly they were taken out early. Pulse Bomb from Train, not able to find a kill, unfortunately. And this is looking like C9 should be able to hold them off for the time being. There's a reset from Zephyr. Gods, though, under a lot of pressure. I'm not sure if he's able to make it out. No, not going to be the case. Train trying to do something, but he is at such a disadvantage now. He does touch. Super trying to hold off with the Primal Rage, but that defensive spawn is so much closer than the offense right now. This is going to be rough unless Rob can turn this around. They might be able to find a kill or two.
Oh, and actually Jake gets shut down right as he pulls the blade out. Luckily for him, it didn't actually cost him the ult charge, but they're still on the point. Sound Barrier going out from Adam. He's looking to hold things out, and 5-man on the point. C9 make the hold.
Impressive hold at that, especially with how quickly LG Evil came through at that first checkpoint here. I mean, you're talking a lot of time to be able to push the distance. They push up to the gate before finally being shut down by C9, who make this a winnable map at that. I mean, had LG Evil pushed at the same rate they were originally, I mean, there was no stopping them. I would have said map to LG Evil off of that, but Cloud9 really show up in the latter half of that one and are making this a fight. One final round to see who's potentially to take first or second seed. This wouldn't guarantee it by any means. Still a couple of games for both teams, but this match is big for both teams.
This is just another one of those like CLG Renegades types matchups where, I mean, whoever wins that matchup is setting themselves up, you know, to be very far ahead of the pack in terms of that group. So I have to agree. I think whoever wins this is pretty much solidifying a spot at least tomorrow into the playoffs, but certainly setting themselves up to be the #1 seed for the group. I think for sure is very, very, very strong possibility. But now on the attacking side, C9, they already made a pretty strong hold against LG Evil and cut them short of that second objective with some really, really solid play defensively. But now the question is can they go the distance themselves? Can they find that extra 112.18 meters after that
very
first
specific
checkpoint?
0.18, very specific there. And on defense, I mean, there's nothing out of the ordinary. They're just going to be moving Train over to the Roadhog and Vault back on that Diva. So very comfortable setup, I'd say, from LG Evil with that triple tank setup. And on the side of C9, like you said, that's the question. What do they want to go to? Do they want to go to the Fire Mercy setup that worked for them before on Lijiang Tower so much? Nubani, it was pretty good at the start, like I had mentioned before, but now Gods. Back to the Genji, and it looks like they're going to put Surefour on the Tracer here.
We see C9 kind of split up, the tanks going in through main, and everybody kind of collectivizing now as Gods on that Genji, as you mentioned. They're going to be going for that 2-2-2 dive with Surefour on the Tracer. And Rolf just dishing out those orbs as much as possible on that Zenyatta. We've been seeing a lot of Zenyatta today, but they're already getting all up in Jake's face as much as they possibly can, but he's finding some space for himself and really putting out some damage himself. God's now trying to find that kill. He really needs to kind of get up into Jake's face once more, get that deflect going to kind of shut him down a little bit.
Surefour, though, already with the pulse bomb, though, he gets super. The shield's too low. He stick the shield, but no, it wasn't enough to be able to save him, and this is just going to be an easy picks for Zephyr and company as Vol is in the wrong spot. Vol is on the point. Probably should have been up there with his friends, but unfortunately not going to be making much of a difference. A pretty similar push in terms of time set there from C9. And now all they need to do is essentially secure the second checkpoint and find themselves with the 2-1 victory, but still an opportunity for LG Evil to hold. But to be honest here, this is usually a spot you don't see a whole lot of teams hold at.
I mean,
for a whole lot of time, I'd have to say.
C9, I mean, literally, by the elevator, they just threw him into that corner and just bullied them. Gods was literally just diving, reset, just jumping in and out as if he was just running in and just uppercutting everybody that was just in that corner. And they cleaned that up with ease, but the blade's going to come out, and he's actually just going to dive right onto Rob for 20. Finds the kill, both supports down here.
Oh, he picks up 3 for himself, and that was what you're talking about, Gods. Cleaning up shop with Wolf. They only utilize that one ultimate, and Hurix heading into what could be a potential final team fight. They're going to have 5, and it's unfortunate that Rob's not going to have Transcendence. Avast is going to have to come through big with the sound barrier, which I just don't see being enough going up against these 5 ultimates.
I mean, especially considering the fact that one of them, Zephyr could potentially eliminate a lot of the extra health that's going to come out because they need to contest here pretty soon. They're going to have to contest, and Zephyr can just throw that thing on the point, throw them off the point, or at least create positions where they're just going to be able to isolate people.
Nice sound barriers from both sides connected on to pretty much everybody. I don't think Adam was able to hit Zephyr there, but unfortunately he actually drops early on. Self-destruct's out there as well. Didn't really get a lot, but the Transcendence, I mean, these, I don't want to say wasted ultimates, but they're not really getting too much ground off of it because LG Evil is still sitting pretty strong on the payload right now. As I say that, Avast is actually going to be taken down here, and I think they have an opportunity to regroup, but the real question is what can Super get done with the Primal Rage? He gets Zephyr, and they turn this one around.
And they're jumping onto the point, though. C9 not letting this one go yet because they know Vol is not in his mech at the moment. They can still get aggressive off of this one if they want to, because without the mech, Vol is basically a very easy target for them to take out. It's basically a free kill for Gods if he could get in there and actually hit that dash.
I think Gods with the Dragon Blade is more scary than those 4 ultimates combined. Originally, what they had from C9 in that last fight, because Gods really showed up in the last 2 fights that he had the Dragon Blade. So if he can do that again, and maybe Surefour finding an early pick onto Rob, that's the pick. Oh, Jake gets taken down. Rob going to be dropped too. He had Transcendence ready to go, and it looks like Gods should be able to get some kills with his own Dragon Blade because of that. And whoa, what a play coming out from those guys. That couldn't have been executed any better.
What a fantastic stick coming out from Surefour to start things off. And obviously, yeah, God's coming through. And the rest of C9 actually just diving onto that opportunity as if it was their own, as if it was the only one they've seen for years, and finally finding that kill that they need. But there it is, Rob 420 pulling out that Transcendence. This is do or die. This is the last possible hope that they have to hold on.
But they might actually be able to do it with Kaiser going down there, but maybe not. Both tanks off the board. This could be a turnaround here. No ultimates on the board, but Adam coming up close on a sound barrier isn't enough to get the job done. They still have 220 to go. He's going to go ahead and drop the beat right now as Gaz is taken down, and you got to wonder at that point, is it worth it? It's clearly was, because Surefour is tearing this one up. Vol, the last one on the point. It looks like Super gets back in time along with Avast. Avast coming close to another sound barrier. He could hold off for a little bit longer here, but they have no damage in the area. He drops the beat, only hits him and Super, who pops to Primal Rage. They're holding off as long as they can.
Really good timing coming in from Super's ultimate there to bring out the Primal Rage, get out that extra little bit of healing. That might be all the time that they needed with Avast and Super just sustaining for long enough. Kaiser coming through with a big pickup of Rob 420. That's Zenyatta taking out of the equation. That's going to be big to prevent that Transcendence from happening a second time. But this is a bloodbath back and forth as trained D-Mex Zephyr as well.
And Jake was taken out with his Dragon Blade. He didn't get anything, unfortunately. Train, the last one remaining on the point. He already used Recall. They have a Zenyatta back in the mix, but Rob doesn't have Transcendence to keep the Dream alive. Cloud9 taking down LG Evil 2-1. A very heated battle. They finish out the map with 128 remaining, or rather finish out the checkpoint that they needed to obtain there. They go up 2-1 in the standings. They're going to push LG Evil down to 1-1. And I'm pretty sure that buys their ticket to tomorrow, to say the least.
Yeah, that absolutely does buy it. And it honestly kind of gives them the first place seed too, depending on what happens in the last couple. I think there's, what, one matchup left?
There's a couple matchups left. I mean, I believe both the teams have one match to go.
Okay, so we do have to see C9 versus Good Rounds, a.k.a. X Scale Force, a.k.a. Oink Oink Here Comes the Boink, which will be our next stream match, and then the final match will be LG Evil's matchup against Virtue.
Yeah, so it should be a pretty exciting one. Guys, I believe, I guess talking a little bit about this next one, a good round. They did take down Virtue 2-0, but they lost to LG 0-2, and I guess if you put that into perspective, LG Evil lost to Cloud9, so I think this is going to be a really tough matchup for Virtue heading into this.
Yeah, I mean, Virtue is obviously a really strong team. One of the teams that surprised us in the qualifier by going up against Vice. Obviously, Vice took that one in the semifinal, but they definitely put themselves in a good position by taking that fourth place slot. But, you know, going up against Cloud9 right now, who's sitting 2-0, definitely looking poised to take this and make it a 3-0 venture in the group stage. I'd be a little worried if I was Virtue.
Virtue is the team that took down. You guys get paid to qualify for today, so looking forward to seeing if they do happen to come up with a big upset, I'd say that is, against LG Evil. But guys, we are going to be heading to a break. When we're back, it's going to be C9 up against Good Round. Don't go anywhere.